This is Righteous Jesse, and you're listening to Wrestling Fucking Cheers, where everybody knows your motherfucking name!
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Wouldn't you like to get away? Sometimes you wanna go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came. You wanna go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name. You wanna go where you can see that troubles are all the same. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
And welcome back to Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, even when you're from the great state of Tennessee. This is Wrestling Cheers. We like to talk about things going the Northeast, our independent wrestling scene. We preview shows, we review shows, and sometimes we even have interviews along the way. This is an interview episode with Stoney Keeley from the SoBros Network. I am your host. I am Justin Summers, and Wrestling Cheers is brought to you by the Trending Topics Network and Midwest Territory. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Like I said, this is an interview episode with Stoney Keeley from SoBros Network. And who are the SoBros? Who is Stoney Keeley? Well, I got him right here. What's up, Stoney?
Not a lot, Justin. I'm feeling pretty relieved, to be honest with you. First of all, thanks for having me on. I've been a longtime fan of Wrestling Cheers. Love what you guys do up there. But I'm just kind of glad that I'm not the one that has to remember all of the plugs this time. I get to just sit back and listen, be on the other end of it for a change.
Dude, that's like a fun thing, I think, with like podcasts. Like anytime like I can go on to someone else's podcast, it's not necessarily remembering the plugs, because I have like a little note sheet, which I don't 100% need. But there's times that I'll forget certain things, but I got all the podcast stuff down of, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I got the contact info down, but sometimes I'll forget like to introduce myself or whatnot. But it's always fun to go on someone else's show and I'm like, all right, all I have to do is talk. I don't have to edit. I don't have to post. I don't have to create a post for all the social media. It's just like, oh, hi, bye. I'm done. Great. Let's move on.
Love it. It's a good feeling.
So, man, like, here's the crazy thing, like, which a lot of people don't know. Like, we'll actually get into, like, for those who don't know who you are and what SoBros Network is. But when I went down to Tennessee, when I went down to the great city of Nashville, me and you got together one evening and we talked, like, how many hours? Just me and you, no microphones, which we kind of planned on doing, but we didn't.
Yeah, I remember you had all your gear, too, and it was a situation where we just got together and just started shooting the shit. I think we were together for what, like 5 hours?
I think it was close to 5 hours, and I want to point out I went up 4 flights of stairs. Yes,
you did. That's I knew that I was going to be lazy whenever we signed our lease on this apartment, and I thought, we go up top, then I'll get my workout in every day and won't have to worry about it. That's called efficiency.
Like, I remember when I got to your living room, I was just like, God damn, because I was carrying all that shit. I'm like, But, yeah, like, we had a great evening. Like, it sucks that we didn't get anything done, like, podcast-wise, but, like, we didn't need to. It was just going to be, like, a special bonus thing to give to our listeners. And I don't know. It was cool not to have that stress or make sure like we don't say certain things. Like we shot this shit like professionally, like other things that we're into. And like the cool thing is too, when I met your girlfriend, it turns out she knew where I was from, like the actual hometown, like that I went to school and everything, Rootstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
And as soon as like she said why, I'm thinking like, well, you only know for like one or two reasons. And of course, she actually like worked at the Dusty Armadillo.
Yeah, that was one of the favorite clubs she used to book at her old job. And I remember her and some of her coworkers making several trips up there to the old Dusty.
Yeah, and it's like in the middle of nowhere, and I've always said like Ritztown's not known for a lot, but a lot of people, if they're like, oh, I know Ritztown, or if they don't know, I'm like Dusty, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about now.
Yep.
So, for those who don't know, which, I mean, with independent wrestling and everything, I feel like there's a lot of stuff thrown out at you at shows and social media, but explain to our listeners who and what the SoBros are.
The SoBros Network is the best way I can describe it. It's just a collection of friends that got together and decided to launch a media company. Now, what makes us kind of hard to define is that we do so much. There's so much coverage on the site. I know we have the Nature Boy Brandon Vick. He's been with me from day one on SoBros Network that covers movies. He reviews movies. We send him to film festivals. He's sort of our field correspondent when it comes to that sort of stuff. He runs the Movies on SoBros Network Twitter account. We have the General John Mosley, who is our independent wrestling correspondent, who absolutely kills it. You'll see him going, coast to coast practically to all these shows and putting clips up online. I cover the Tennessee Titans. I also do a lot of comedy stuff like these bullshit viral videos that we copy on the site and add commentary to. We do Nashville lifestyle writing. There's so much that we do. It's kind of hard to encompass. The comparison I get most often when people come to me and they kind of like the light bulb goes off when they realize what SoBros Network is, and I'm kind of iffy on how I feel about this, but they always say, oh, so you're like Nashville Barstool. If you guys are familiar with Barstool Sports, like it's just kind of this hodgepodge of debauchery and kind of inappropriate content. But that's who we are.
I mean, I see the Barstool thing, but there's something with SoBros that I absolutely love, and it's the friend thing, and I think it extends out to a lot of people like myself, where, I heard of you guys basically through Righteous Jesse and, sponsoring Southern Underground Pro, and I was like, I'll openly admit sometimes I put up walls and I'll reject new things, but there's times that I try to go against that and do better. And I remember when I was hearing about you guys, I was like, all right, I'll check out these SoBros. I'll see what's going on. And Brennan Vick with movie stuff. Like I think that was one of the first things I went to because I don't listen to a lot of movie podcasts. Like me and a couple friends, we have the Trending Topics Network. And like we do one and it comes out roughly once a month. It doesn't help that my one friend who's on it and it's his show and he edits it. Like, he'll take like a while. And like next thing I know, it's like, it's been a month since like we recorded and like he hasn't put out an episode. And like actually me and my friend, the other friend who's on, like we'll bust his balls about it. But it was cool to like get someone else's opinion on what they think about this movie or that movie. And like, I remember the MCU, when you guys like talked about your favorites, it was cool to be like, well, you guys had your list and then I threw out mine. I think I had the first Avenger way higher than you guys, which is like, I'm a huge Captain America fan and I love a good period piece. And the fact that it was like the 20s and everything, like I fell in love with it. You guys were like, like it's kind of sucks. But I'm like, fuck, I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I wasn't too big on that one, but I did say on the podcast that I wanted to go back and rewatch it because of your feedback. And I never did. I'm a busy guy. It's hard to squeeze 2 hours out of the day, but Now that I'm rethinking about it, I'm like, you know what? I need to go check that out.
Then like what else with you guys? I mean, obviously like there's a lot of the wrestling stuff and, not SoBros, but Southern Underground Pro. And then let's actually get into that real quick. Like how you were introduced into, Southern Underground Pro. Like I kind of know the story, but it's kind of cool to like for other listeners to get the story too.
Yeah. The independent wrestling coverage as a whole was something that we just kind of stumbled into by dumb luck. I mean, when I started SoBros Network, it was very much sports, entertainment, humor, and that was about it. And I had heard about the Scenic City Invitational. I was a very casual indie wrestling fan at the time. Like I make no bones about it. Like I kept up with who some of the major players were, but for the most part, I couldn't just flip on a show and know who half the people were. But I hear about this Scenic City Invitational. It's this big tournament that happens down in the Chattanooga area every August. And I think, you know what? Like this is still sort of a local flair. for SoBros Network, maybe I'll go down and check it out. So myself, Brandon, Papa Bear, who is actually our lead SEC football analyst, and our operations manager, Cadbury, we went down, covered it, wrote a few articles, and what we found was that people were actually really interested in it. And independent wrestling, there are a ton of podcasts out there, but there's not a lot of websites out there that kind of feature the scene in a sort of written content form. So, and basically what that means is you're not going to Google some independent wrestler and you're going to find a bunch of articles about him. You might find YouTube videos, matches, stuff like that. So I started looking at it as an opportunity for us to really expand our coverage. And with that, just that one weekend, it grew into something larger than I ever expected. We attended the Southern Underground Pro Maximum Overdive show. That was August of 2017, Joey Janela versus Kurt Stallion for the Bone Storm Championship. I wrote a feature about the atmosphere of the show, just how cool it was, the vibe. It was so different from what Nashville's independent wrestling scene had been for the past 20 years. So I wrote that, and Jesse and Brittany both reached out to me and thanked me for the article. And we had tweeted at each other before that, but that weekend was really what sparked the relationship that we have today. And I consider both of them close friends of mine now. Fast forward a few months, and the indie wrestling stuff is booming so much that I think, hey, what if we had a person that was specifically here to cover indie wrestling for us? And that's how Mose was brought on board. And Mose has killed it. He's dedicated himself to the SoBros vision. I'm very fortunate to have him, but that just sort of snowballed the indie wrestling coverage on the site. We start sponsoring the sub shows, and we start figuring out that, hey, these people that we meet at these sub shows that we're shaking hands with, that we're toasting beers with, that we're talking the graps with, are going back home, going on to SoBrosShop.com, and they're buying T-shirts from us. Mm-hmm. These people want to support us. So it's kind of crazy that it's sort of become one of the areas of the website that really drives business, not just website traffic, but we're talking about a real dollar amount. And now, I talk to those guys, the sub team, probably once a week.
I look at what you guys do on the independent wrestling scene side, and I feel like it's a mirror of kind of what we're doing. It's, I mean, maybe not 100% the same, but it's kind of being a lightning rod and like a beacon for your area, and like to watch something like Southern Underground Pro and then find interviews that highlight these wrestlers more and more. Like last year, a bigger focus was put on Brett Eisen. Yeah. And he's a dude that I absolutely love. And actually I have a friend up here, and we finally seen Manders up here. And I had a friend go nuts over a match with Manders versus Big Twan. And because he likes hoss battles, wherever how you want to put it. And I was just like, dude, I've been telling you about Southern Underground Pro, Brett Eisen, O'Shea Edwards. You're going to love these two. And I think he came back and he said, yeah, I fucking love it. So it's really cool to be able to do that. And I think I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't for Southern Underground Pro, and then have that additional spotlight from you guys. And even you guys helped put out that t-shirt last year that I fucking love. Yeah,
that's something, from a business standpoint, we had the capacity to do it. We had a guy that was willing to take a chance on us. And that's something that I will forever be grateful to Brett Eisen for. He's another guy that, I consider him a close personal friend at this point. He may want to elbow me in the face for some of the things that I've said about him on Checks and Championships, but it's been a great opportunity for us to really kind of hone our craft and show that we can do more than just make dick jokes on the internet.
So, I want to jump into this quick, just because it's something that I want to talk about, and I think it's something that we're both pumped about right now. The reason why you're on is because this Sunday is opening week for the NFL. Actually, like the day this goes up will be Packers at Bears, which I'm excited for because I am also a Bears fan. But we have the Tennessee Titans coming up here to Cleveland, Ohio, to go up against the Cleveland Browns. I thought we'd get a little bit of shop talk of sports and the Browns and the Titans. How you feeling about the Titans coming into this season?
I feel pretty good about the Titans, and it's not something that we felt here in Nashville for a long time. But when you look at this defense, which figures to be top 10, I personally think this could be a top 5 defense in the NFL by the time the season's over with. And you look at the effort John Robinson, the general manager of the Titans, made to shore up the offense and put weapons around Marcus Mariota and sort of reconfigure the offensive line, which is now a question mark because of the Taylor Lewan suspension. But you see the vision there nonetheless. I think with a bit of continuity at offensive coordinator, there's reason to think that the offense could potentially catch up to the defense. And I think you're looking at the most complete team in the AFC South now that Andrew Luck is retired.
That's such a crazy point with him. I always figured, Andrew Luck and even, the Colts as a whole have just been this really lucky, no pun intended, of the luck and the horseshoe, really lucky franchise of being able to go from Peyton Manning to #suck for luck, and then they get him. And it seemed like they were going to go on this other ride. And in the past few years, it's been bumpy. And this was a lot of people who thought this was going to be his comeback year. This is what was going, granted, he came back last year, but this was going to be where he, goes back to the playoffs and like makes it back to the AFC Championship game. And then he retires, which I have no beef with him about. I mean, it's your health. If you don't want to do it, please don't do it. Don't wreck your body. There are a lot of negatives that have come out from people playing football. But now it makes that division a little bit more open. I think too, it's almost the equivalent of, and I say almost because this is going to go a little bit further, like the day that Tom Brady retires and how the AFC East is going to be. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting you bring up the Colts' fortune at the quarterback position that, they've offered Jacoby Brissett a deal, but is he the guy long term? You think potentially this could be a middle-of-the-road team. I think they could end up being a bad team because I think the AFC South is going to be ultra-competitive this year. They could be looking at a potential high draft pick next spring in a quarterback class that has Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jake Fromm. So, I mean, if they're in the market for a quarterback again next spring, it would be another sort of miraculous prospect that just falls into their lap.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. I know here in Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, that like hopes are running high for the Browns, and I think for us, we have just been miserable forever. And to be a Cleveland fan, like not even just the Browns, but the Cavs and the Indians, like the Cavs, the one championship is the best we've had in years. We've the Browns haven't, made it to the AFC Championship game since the 80s, and we haven't made the playoffs, I think, since 2002. And Indians making it to the World Series in my lifetime 3 times and losing all 3 times, and even mimicking the 3-1 lead that the Golden State Warriors had previously that year, and then we had to feel the taste of defeat on the opposite end of that 3-1. But the Browns, I just want to say they've been so bad, and we've had hopes. I've often said I was a huge fan of Manziel when he got drafted. I was in the state of Tennessee when he got drafted. I was in Memphis that night. I was at a drop lot for a trucking company I used to work for, and I had the draft playing, and I heard that the Browns traded up, and then we got Manziel, and I went nuts. And that it fucking sucked because he wasn't that good. Now we have a better version. I've said this to many, many people. Like, there's a difference between Manziel and Baker Mayfield is the fact that Manziel was cocky. Baker is confident.
Mm-hmm.
So Manziel would go out and throw an interception, then he would be really scared to like throw that same interception. But then, Baker will go out, throw an interception, and he'll throw the exact same throw the next time he comes back out. He has so much confidence, and cocky and confidence are so similar, but there's so like a wide difference between them. Now
I would also add that it helps that Baker has a better mind for football and a much better arm than Manziel had. Like he really is. You watch Baker Mayfield play, and it's kind of like what could have been with Johnny Manziel.
Yeah. So now with Baker, and now we got Odell Beckham Jr. and everything. Like, there's so much, hype going into this season. There's people that I know that are thinking like, oh, we're gonna go to the playoffs. We're going to go to the Super Bowl. We're gonna win the Super Bowl. And I'm like, at this point, I just want more than 8 wins. At least get us above 500 for the first time since 2007. And even
2007, the year that the Browns went 10-6, if I'm not mistaken, but missed the playoffs because the Tennessee Titans played an Indianapolis Colts squad that had clinched a first-round bye, and Tony Dungy elected to rest all of his starters. So the Titans ended up stealing that playoff spot from the Browns by virtue of playing the second-string Colts.
Yep.
Not to twist the knife or anything. Just
I'll never forget that season because, that's the season we started off 0-1. We got murdered by the Pittsburgh Steelers week 1. And that was, I think Charlie Fry was starting, and then they benched him because that game was horrible. And week 2 against the Cincinnati Bengals, we won, and it was like a shootout. I want to say the combined score might have been in the 80s. One thing was like 40-something each.
Was that the like the 59-51 game or whatever?
Or was it higher? There's a handful of like high scoring games that I remember, but it could have been that one because I also remember a Bears-Vikings game from right around that time that was also like 50-something to 40-something, and it was just nuts.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm a little foggy.
But I know that game, the Bengals versus the Browns, was really high too, and it was Derek Anderson that killed it and helped the Browns, win and went on. It was a great year. Him and Braylon Edwards killed it. And then, we had the horrible fall off last year. The year after, and we're like, we came into last season. Come on, 1 win in 2 seasons.
Yeah,
and like that, it sucks because that year that we only had 1 win, I became what's called a Browns backer, like an official. We have the fan club Browns backers, and you can go to different chapters. And I went to my girlfriend, her dad is a part of a local Browns backer group, and that was our first year together. So I'm expecting to, get so pumped up during these games and watch some wins, and we win 1 game the first year. We win 0 games the second year. And even the game that we won, I didn't go because my girlfriend and her family went to Maryland for the weekend, or for the week or something. So I didn't even get to experience it. And then last year with, Baker coming in, he was like a real savior. And I feel like this is the first time in forever that we've had like real hope going into a season. It's just nuts.
It looks like the quarterback curse in Cleveland has finally been lifted. This is a bona fide franchise guy that you're going to build around for years to come.
That's what we hope. And like, I know I'm so pumped for this season. And, it's cool, like, too, when we finally got the schedule, like, week 1 versus the Titans, and I'm like, oh, cool, because I think that's something that we talked about after we developed our friendship, that the Titans and the Browns didn't face each other last year.
No, they didn't.
But there was we have a mutual friend now, because I think through those tweets, there was somebody who, like, you guys are friends with, or you're friends with, who actually, like, used to live in Cleveland, actually used to live in the town that I go to Browns backers, Kent, because he went to Kent State.
Jack Kapansky, yeah, he's been one of our longest running supporters. big time SoBros guy.
What type of record do you think the Titans are going to have this year?
I'm actually, I feel bad. Like I'm jinxing it, of course, but I think the Titans are going to win 9 to 10 games.
I think that's where I am with the Browns. Like I said, like if we could win above 8, actually be above 500, that would be like 9 and 7. I'm perfectly fine with. But I mean, we get 10, that'd be great too.
That's why I think this week 1 game is so important, because the national media is showing the Browns a lot of love. I know they're one of the sexiest picks to win the Super Bowl out in Vegas. People are betting their money on the Browns,
which is weird.
It is kind of weird, you know. It's what the Browns and the I can't remember the other team that was
the Bears.
That's it. The Browns and the Bears were the 2 most bet teams to win the Super Bowl. But I don't think the Titans are really getting enough credit for being consistently good over the last 3 years. It's the first time they've had 3 winning seasons consecutively in the franchise's history. And I don't think the improvements they made in the offseason are being recognized. But, Justin, we're looking at 2 teams that are on the ascent in the AFC, and this game could potentially decide a wild card spot when it comes playoff time.
Oh, God, yes. And the crazy thing, too, that I always throw out with the NFL is the fact that week 1, I mean, it is very important, but it will not paint the picture of the full season, because teams work on a game plan for week 1 for months. Like pretty much as soon as they're announced, they're like, okay, week 1, we have this team. Let's take a lot of time. They scout them. And that's why, like, you'll have week 1, a team who will get murdered.
Yeah.
But they'll go to the playoffs, maybe win the Super Bowl. And then that team that beat them is like, they had like 2 wins that season.
Yeah. I always look back to the 2014 Titans. It was Ken Wisenhunt's first and only full year as head coach. They go out week 1 and absolutely destroy a Kansas City Chiefs team that had high hopes that season. Mm-hmm. And everybody in Nashville is just buzzing. Oh, my gosh, the Titans just beat a good team. We're back, baby. Let's go. And then they proceed to go 2-14 and end up being the worst Titans team I have ever seen fielded in Nashville. Just an illustration of that point.
I can't remember, because a lot of games are just flashing before me. Was it the Browns and the Titans where the Browns had the record-setting comeback of points?
I believe it was, yeah. And
twist that knife, motherfucker.
I'm seeing like flashbacks of Josh Cribbs wide open in the end zone, but I can't recall. Like the Titans, if I'm not mistaken, the Titans were up like 28-3 or something like that in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
The Browns came back to steal it. That was an ugly year.
That was Brian Hoyer's year.
Was it?
I want to say, because I think we started that season against the Steelers, and we had a similar thing where, like, first half we were getting killed, and then Brian Hoyer for some reason stepped it up in the second half, and he almost pulled it off. Then I think week 2 or week 3 was the Titans, and we managed to pull the same comeback, but actually win.
Yeah, reverse of fortune there. I'm gonna have to look it up, man. That's gonna bug me now. I'm usually have a good memory when it comes to this kind of thing, but I'm drawing a blank here.
I mean, the older we get, the more football games we see, and the more seasons there are where it's just like, was that this year? Or was this other year? Or was it this game? Or was I don't remember.
I hear you, buddy.
I think for Browns, though, it's just like, I mean, did we lose that game by 20, or we lose it just by 10? And we all actually, the biggest thing for the Browns for a while, we would lose. I think even the 0-16 year, we would lose by like a field goal or a touchdown, or we would lose at the last second by a field goal or a touchdown, something that would just put the other team over, and just like, oh fuck, we lose. Like we're in the games, but at the last second, or probably a lot of them last quarter, we just collapsed. Yeah,
the same sort of thing with the Titans. Like there's a window from 2009 until 2016 where the Titans were just kind of in that purgatory of mediocrity. Like they weren't they would be competitive in games that they had no business being competitive in, and then they would just be blown out by other people. And they were always good enough to kind of hover around 7-9, 9-7, and they didn't do anything to wow you. It's like, it's almost like that brief period of Titans history is just a blank. Like the teams don't even exist.
Yeah. All the stuff we've had to go through with Browns. I always said too, the fact that for a long time, we didn't have a first round, a first overall pick.
Yeah. We
would suck like bad, but not enough to get like the really coveted shiny picks. Like I think, the year that we can talk about, Andrew Luck went number 1, and like, that's when that's Redskins was RG3 year too. Same year, right?
Yeah. And that's when the Seahawks ended up with Russell Wilson.
And we wound up with Brandon Weeden.
Ooh, that one stings. He was in Tennessee for a little bit, and just as terrible.
Oh, I remember like when we drafted Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
Actually, no, before Colt McCoy. I'm happy that I'm starting to blank on these quarterbacks because
so many of them.
Yeah, so many bad ones. The one before him, Notre Dame quarterback.
Brady Quinn. No.
Yeah, Brady Quinn. Yes, Brady Quinn. We got drafted Brady Quinn. I'm like, oh my god, this guy's going to be the future. And that was going into the year that the Browns went 10-6. So we thought the answer was Derek Anderson after that. It's like, all right, cool, this is great. Then we actually finally get to the point where Brady Quinn has to play.
Yeah,
not that good.
No.
And then we go to Colt McCoy, and I'm like, yes, this is going to be awesome. He's going to be the future. This would be great. And it was like freaking Brady Quinn 2.0.
Yeah.
And then we got Brandon Weeden. I'm like, nope, I'm not playing this game anymore. Nope. Mm-mm.
I mean, it's one thing, when you draft Brady Quinn and Colt McCoy coming out, there's a ceiling, there's potential.
Mm-hmm.
But Brandon Weeden, I'm pretty sure, was 56 years old when they drafted him in the first round. And, it's just hard to look back on that one and say, I see the vision. No, it's just kind of, I don't know, bad decision.
Actually, he was 65. He wasn't coming from the Ohio State Buckeyes. He was coming from getting his Buckeye card, which I don't know if that's everywhere else to where basically that's when you're old and you get like this discount card.
Yeah.
But then like who was after Brady Quinn? Was that?
I know you guys played around with Seneca Wallace there for a little bit too, didn't you?
Yeah, Seneca Wallace was in there, but he was like when we have the infamous jersey, that was people. I think that was whoever started games, and then I'm trying to remember. Like Seneca Wallace, I think was a backup who got game time. Was he backup for Weeden? That's like I said, we've had so many quarterbacks, and when we got Manziel, that's when I thought that was going to be the answer. Then it was cool to have like Brian Hoyer play well, but he wouldn't play well all the time. Like I'll never forget the game against the Colts, where I think the Colts won, but our defense is what really kept us in it. Like as a quarterback, Hoyer was awful.
Yeah, and now you see him getting the contract with Indianapolis, and he's been a pretty serviceable guy in New England. Like, it just, I don't know. I just don't know how so many guys can go wrong.
I think sometimes, like, you could be a good backup, or you can be a good backup in the right system, but when you're made the starting quarterback and you have to start every game, and you're the top dog, that some people kind of crumble, or they're just not that good. I mean, Brian Hoyer might have been better. Like, I know people, when it was Brian Hoyer versus Manziel, that they were hardcore Brian Hoyer. And then obviously Manziel gets kind of put first. We end up trading away Hoyer, or he just signed with the Texans. And I remember the Texans went to the playoffs the next year. And everybody's like, look, he's in the playoffs. He's doing it. Look, we could have been in the playoffs. And then they laid a goose egg. And I was like, yep, that's the Brian Hoyer I remember.
Mm-hmm. Was that the game that he threw like 5 picks, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was horrible. And like I said, that's the Brian Hoyer I remember.
Yeah, that's why he was a career backup.
And then like one thing I think about like with us, with the Browns, like when we got Baker Mayfield, a little bit celebrated, but then when he started playing, that's when like it blew up even more. But I remember also when I was over the road, because it was right around the same time when you guys got Mariota.
Yes.
I remember the digital billboards like across the Nashville that had the one message that said like, "Welcome to Nashville, Marcus Mariota." And I was just like, I'm like, this is cool to like see this city get all hyped for this quarterback. And I was like, maybe one day we'll get to that point. And then, of course, too, that was like the number one pick overall, if I'm correct, right?
He was the number 2. Jameis Winston went number 1 that year to Tampa Bay. But the Titans picked second that year. And I remember the optimism then, and that conversation's changed a little bit here in 2019. We've got a fan base that's pretty divided on the guy now.
It's probably similar to my not my Browns, but my Bears fandom with one Jay Cutler, who was like a god for a couple seasons, and then the 2010 seasons where they went to the NFC Championship game, and the NFC Championship game itself like put that divide where people were just like, I hate this guy.
Just done with him at that point.
Yeah. So like I can see that with fan base. With the frustration with Marcus Mariota, you'd figure like you guys would have at least hit AFC Championship game by now. I think that could be where you guys, if like we don't go to the Browns, that could be where you guys go, because like we said, now you're taking the Colts pretty much out of the equation, or they're just not being taken as seriously because they lost Luck, and that was the year. Who won the division the year between Manning and Luck?
Between Manning and Luck would have been, I think that was one of the years the Texans won it, because they had it a string of seasons there where they just kind of, by virtue of everyone else in the division sucking, they just stole the AFC South title.
Yeah, because obviously the Colts were sucking for Luck. The Jaguars, they're so hot and cold, it's ridiculous. And then you have you guys, which you'd have great years, but then you'd have kind of like those bad years. And I think that was one of those not so great years. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the same time I mentioned earlier where the Titans were just, they were good enough to be in playoff discussions in like October, maybe early November, but they were never bad enough to suck so bad that you'd get one of those franchise changers, the top 5 pick in the draft, until the year that Ken Wisenhunt took over, ruined the organization, and then they kind of stumbled into Marcus Mariota.
I wish you guys the best of luck. Obviously not week 1. That's going to be, I'm going to be rooting heavily for, my Browns. And I think the other thing too with us, like we haven't had a week 1 victory in, I don't even know the last time. Even last year we tied, which was like, oh, we didn't lose, but we didn't fucking win either.
I think the Titans started the season 3-1 last year, and people were excited. There was a lot of optimism. I can't remember if we won. No, we lost week 1, because that was I don't know if you caught it, Justin. That was the game that the Titans went down to Miami and all of the weird fluky injuries happened. Then there was a weather delay. It ended up taking like 7 hours to play the game, and the Titans end up losing a game that they could have very easily won.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that.
It was bad. It was tough to watch.
It wasn't a good week for either of us that week, because like I said, we were going up against the Steelers, our hated rival, which it sucks that that's our rival, because like I said, they're one of the more successful franchises over the past like 40 years. And no matter what we do, like we're just not as good as them, or they're the division champions. It's very similar to like I said, I'm a Bears fan, to where like their rival is the Packers, and the Packers are the same thing for that division. And then obviously the really twist of the knife is when I had to go through the Packers-Steelers Super Bowl, because I was like, I don't want either of these teams to win.
Yeah, man. The Steelers are actually a pretty hated team down here too. Like there used to be a pretty strong rivalry back in the early 2000s when the Titans were actually good, and they were both in the AFC Central, and you used to get fired up for the Titans Steelers game. And then you think back to 2008, you had Lindell White, Keith Bullock stomping on the terrible towel after they just wrecked the Steelers, probably their best season they've had in Nashville, except for the Super Bowl run. Mm-hmm. So there's this long-standing hatred between Titans fans and Steelers fans too.
I think that's one of the other reasons why I really do love Nashville. When I went down there in January, like that was my first time being in Nashville where I wasn't like working, like so like driving across 40 and whatever, and just like, oh, there's Nissan Stadium, oh, there's the TA right by it, ooh, there's Shoney's too, but just to get to experience it and everything, like there's so much love too, and I know it's not just like me. Like my grandmother, which was something we've talked about, is like she actually was from Tennessee. She was from Rockwood, Tennessee, and like I haven't had a chance to go there since I found out like that's where she was. Because I think I might have been told as a kid, but like to me, like Tennessee's so far away, and she loved Tennessee, and I do want to go back through that. I think I looked, and there's like a truck stop, and I think I'd been to the truck stop in Rockwood.
That's crazy. I don't even know where Rockwood is. It's just one of those places. Like there are towns in Tennessee that you just assume like, oh, that's out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Like there's so many of those kind of small country towns. It's hard to keep up with. It's
like right off 40, on the outskirts of the west side of Knoxville. Not like right on but like if you go west from Knoxville, they're just south of 40. There's Rockwood.
Okay. Learn something new.
I think, too, like, the only thing that I said I hate about, not Nashville, but Tennessee, is if you ever have to go east to west.
Yeah.
Or west to east, whatever. If you're, like, starting in Memphis and you have to drive all the way to Bristol or vice versa, like, that is... If you're not in Memphis, Nashville, Jackson, or Knoxville, it's just nothing.
It's brutal. I mean, that's a long drive.
Oh yeah. What are some of your favorite things about Nashville?
I love hot chicken. I know it might be sad, but that's like the first thing that came to mind. I love that we as a city kind of have this reputation for being warm and fun people. Like I know you know, but listeners might not know that my girlfriend's actually from New Jersey. Now that she's living down here with me, like all of her friends want to come down because you hear this buzz about Nashville. And I love playing tour guide. It's a lot of fun to go out on Broadway, do the whole honky tonk thing, grab some beers. Seasoned vets know that you're not puking in the street until 4 a.m., but you see all these tourists come to town and it's, before midnight and they're tapping out. So it is that sort of fun city. Being a local, it kind of wears on you. I mean, that's something I probably do maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But I think there is a good vibe to this city that isn't recognized nationally. There are quieter places around town that serve really good food. I mean, you can get the hot chicken here. You get good barbecue here, meat in threes. But, there's also good pizza. There's good Chinese food, pad thai. Anything you want, there's a creative Southern spin on it here in Nashville. Love the food scene. Obviously, I love the indie wrestling scene down here that's emerged.
Oh, God, yes.
Thanks to Southern Underground Pro, and there's a couple of other promotions in the area that aren't too far of a drive from Nashville. It's a really blossoming scene right now. There's also a really good comedy scene in Nashville that people don't talk about. I mean, you can go to just about any brewery in East Nashville any night of the week, and you're going to find an open mic somewhere. It's just, there's so much more. They call it the Music City, but there's so much more to the entertainment here that, you're not going to run out of stuff to do. And the people are nice, so I'm happy to call it home, man. I think we lucked out when we started SoBros Network being in a city like Nashville that we can kind of contribute to that fun vibe a little bit, or at least I think we can.
What's better, Nashville barbecue or Nashville hot chicken?
I would go with the Nashville hot chicken, because that's something, man. I've been to DC, I've been to New Jersey, I've been to California, and I've been to, where am I thinking? Down in Georgia. And I've tried what they call Nashville hot chicken there, and it's nothing like the real thing. I don't know why it's so hard to master, but the hot chicken is not something you can get anywhere else. Meanwhile, you can walk blindfolded into good barbecue just about anywhere in the South, at least in my opinion. I might catch some flack for that, but Memphis has got good barbecue. There's plenty of places. You have options.
That's interesting. I've always heard about, Nashville hot chicken. The only thing with me, I'm not a really big fan of spicy things. And that's what I always take is that's what it is, correct?
It is. Yeah. And there are some places you can get it mild and you're still going to get the flavor without all of the heat.
Okay.
But that's part of the fun to me. I want to be fucking miserable after I eat some hot chicken. I want a quart of milk, and then I'm just going to lay on the couch for 2 hours groaning. That's when you get good hot chicken to me.
Because I think for me, I love barbecue. Kind of like what you said, you can go a lot of places and get barbecue. And the cool thing with barbecue is there's different areas have their own barbecue style. There's Carolina barbecue,
Sure.
Memphis barbecue, Kansas City barbecue, and I think there's other ones that maybe not necessarily branded, but it's definitely a different vibe for barbecue. So
yeah, sure.
I remember one of the few places I ate when I was down there, the barbecue joint right by Basement East.
Edley's.
So good.
Yeah, that's a popular spot on Sup Sundays, and honestly, I think it is probably, I would have it the second best barbecue in Nashville. I mean, it's good. What'd you get there?
Oh God, it's been January. I don't remember. I know I got the banana pudding dessert.
Oh, now we're talking. Yeah.
Well, half the reason is my girlfriend hates bananas. She doesn't even she doesn't like the sight of them. She doesn't like the taste of them, and it's a genuine dislike. Because you could slip bananas into some recipe or something, and you won't tell her, but she will taste it. If the taste is noticeable, which, banana, it's kind of that flavor. So being down there without her, I was like, I'm getting me some banana pudding dessert. I just don't remember what I got, but I remember it was good. I might have got mac and cheese with it. And I remember that. I just remember as a whole, it was good. And I think sometimes if you forget what you eat, especially something like that where I'd only been there the one time, I remember the feeling. I remember between it being right after the sub show and hanging out with people or the food in general, I loved it. It was so much fun.
It's good environment, and no matter what you order, man, it always smells good. Places like that.
What's the number one barbecue joint in Nashville, in your opinion?
I like a place called Martin's.
Okay.
Martin's Barbecue. They've got a spot downtown. They've got a spot in Mount Juliet, which is the town I grew up in. It's about 13 miles east outside of Nashville, but really, really good brisket, really good barbecue, and smoked wings, which,
Ooh.
Kind of contradictory to go to a barbecue place and get wings, but I love their smoked wings. They've got a really good white Alabama sauce that's just to die for, and good mac and cheese, good fixins. It's just all around one of my favorite meals in town.
Smoked wings. That just stands out to me because I don't know if I've ever had smoked wings, but that sounds really good.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
All right, let's start to wrap this show up, and we will end like we always do with none other than the Fave 5 questions.
Hey, this is Booker T, 5-time champ, and this is the Fave 5 questions. Now, can you dig it?
All right, question number 1. Let's start with, we just talked about wings. Bone in or out?
I think I'm starting to develop into more of a bone out guy. I like eating with a fork and knife. I know that's sort of blasphemy, but I used to be a bone in guy, but now I just I don't like making a mess. I'm a bit of a clean freak.
That has become a very, very common answer more lately of people picking bone out. It's not very popular because I mean, so many times I've asked this question, and it's well, if it's bone out, then it's a chicken nugget, or if it's a bone out, it's a chicken strip. It's not the same thing, but I've gotten like, you get more meat and it's cleaner to eat and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's becoming more and more popular.
I'm with it, man. Give me some like Asian Thai style sauce on some boneless wings. I'll just eat it with a fork and knife. I don't have to worry about sticky fingers, sticky mess all over my face. That's what she said. And I'm good. That's all I need.
Is that your favorite wing sauce?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. For me, it's just, I love barbecue. And then my favorite barbecue wing or barbecue sauce is from Quaker Steak and Lube, which is a little bit regionalized, but I know they're scattered throughout the United States, outside of like Northeast Ohio and Western PA. So there's
actually one in a little vacation town out here called Pigeon Forge. Passed it just the other day on my way out for vacation.
It's good. That's my favorite wing spot. They have a wide variety of flavors, and they rank them on the Scoville scale. And obviously, their highest used to be just atomic, but they kind of gotten rid of it, and now they have triple atomic.
Okay, well now you've got me interested. I'm thinking next time I'm traveling through Pigeon Forge on my way to Gatlinburg, I gotta stop and check out the wings at this place.
All right, question number 2. Since you're from Nashville, you're not biased in any way.
Okay.
Pizza, Chicago style or New York style?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I think I'd go gun to my head. I'm going New York style because the Chicago style like takes a part of your soul with it. I mean, it's so dense, big, and rich. Like you have to be in a mood. You have to be like aggressively hungry, like ready to go out into the woods and just hunt a deer with your bare hands and bite into it, kind of hungry if you're going to take on Chicago style. That's why I default to the New York style, but both are very good in my opinion.
It's cool to talk to someone who's biased about it because there's so many people like from the New York area that'll be like, fuck Chicago style. That's horrible pizza. That's not even real pizza. It's a lasagna or it's a pie. And then I go, well, pizza is a pie too, but that's a different story. But yeah, like I love Chicago deep dish, but yeah, like it's cool to be like I'm not gonna kill anybody for if they pick New York style, but like so many people just like are so biased.
I know. It's almost like we were talking about before the show, like the territorial sort of feeling about your college football team down here. It's like, no, you don't dare suggest that anything's better than my pizza.
I think the only two like schools, colleges that I think that like we don't like here in Ohio. One, the big one, Michigan. That's such a given. And then the other one, I think it's just because that's kind of our biggest competition on the bigger scale, and that's Alabama.
Alabama, interesting.
But I think it's just because it's like we're one of the bigger dogs in college sports or college football, and Alabama is either like right there with us or they're that step above us. And like it's that kind of competition. And what sucks, like how many playoffs has it come where you kind of want to see that matchup, but it doesn't happen for one reason or the other?
Oh, the one time it did happen, Ohio State pretty well kicked our asses, so that was something.
But then other times, like I think that like that's the matchup we want, and then we don't get it, but we get our ass kicked by some other school.
It's interesting. I'm pretty sure everybody hates Alabama these days. At least that's the sense I get. Yeah, kind of. Luckily, I'm not like hardcore into college sports. It's more of a state pride. Like I love Ohio. I don't love Northeast Ohio, but like Ohio as a whole. So like to be able to represent Ohio with something with a symbol, I'm happy that we do have the Scarlet and Gray. There you go. All right, question number 3, another interesting one because you are from the South. Not necessarily where this would be a bigger target, but Pepsi or Coke? Ooh, well, if you talk to a Southerner, they're likely going to call it Coke, regardless of which bottle you have in your hand. I don't know if you guys were aware of that, but people will be like, "Hey, get me a Coke," and point to a Dr. Pepper down here. Just everything's Coke. Between the two brands, I think I go Coca-Cola because growing up, Pepsi was all my fucking parents would drink. Like, it would be the dead of summertime. I'd be so hot from playing outside. I'd come in and all we'd have to drink was Pepsi. I mean, there was a time, I think, you know, if you took 8-year-old Stoney and cut him open for some reason, he would bleed Pepsi. And I think it just kind of ruined it for me.
There's a stand-up comedian by the name of John Caparulo. He's actually from Ohio, but he has a joke that I love, and that's, can we just have Coke and Pepsi in the same building? I'm getting tired of going to a place. Can I have a Coke? Is Pepsi okay? Is Monopoly money okay? No, it's not, because Pepsi sucks. And you know it sucks.
Yeah, I'm tired of it. I've had my fair share of Pepsi in my life. I'm a Coca-Cola guy through and through.
Have you ever had it to where you go somewhere, you ask for a Coke, and they just like, oh yeah, okay, and then they bring you Pepsi, and you're just like, oh no, I said Coke. You didn't correct me. This is not Coke.
Thankfully, most people will catch it because it is somewhat of a divisive issue, I'd say. And if I order a Coke, they will say, all we have is Pepsi. Is that okay? And I'll say, no, just bring me a water or something like that.
Bring me unfiltered faucet water. That's fine.
The worst is when you go to a bar and try to order a Jack and Coke.
Oh.
All we have is Pepsi. If you've ever had a Jack and Pepsi in your life, it will fucking ruin you. You will never want to drink whiskey again.
Yeah, that one's not good. I think I went to somewhere and I've ordered like a Jack and Coke or something in Coke, and I could tell it was Pepsi, and I'm just like, oh, this is not good at all.
No, it's not. Not good at all.
Question number 4. I'm curious to where you sit on this. How do you feel about ketchup on hot dogs?
I can't do just ketchup on a hot dog. If I'm going to do ketchup on a hot dog, I have to have mustard on it as well. That's passable. I can do it as long as it's a pretty good hot dog. But if I have my choice, now this might sound kind of crazy, but I like a hot dog with a layer of sauerkraut over it, then a layer of relish, and some chopped jalapenos on top of it. That's my dream hot dog.
Okay. you got your spicier side there too. Okay.
Yeah, I'm big into the spicy stuff.
I'm definitely very bland, just ketchup, mustard, and if you have it, relish. But
yeah, I'm a big time relish guy. Like at a ballpark that I obviously don't have the resources to put sauerkraut and jalapenos on a hot dog, I just go straight relish.
The crazy thing is the people from Chicago. Again, you get like the divide with half something to do with Chicago. Like that's like blasphemy. Like
that's the thing, and nothing else exists.
Yeah, it's like if you put ketchup on a hot dog, you're a sinner. And I'm like, why? And I'm trying to get to the bottom of like, is it just Chicago? Or there's just are there other regions that don't like ketchup? I feel like a lot of people who grew up in the Midwest, like, we love it.
Yeah, I don't think there's much hot dog judging that goes on down here.
Just the hot chicken. Just the hot chicken judging.
Just the hot chicken judging. That's right. Man, people take it seriously too, and there's a lot of debate on the origins of hot chicken, who had it first. You know, it kind of in some ways reminds me of, if you're familiar with it, like the story between, what is it, Geno's and Pat's, the 2 Philly cheesesteak places up in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. There's just that blood feud. There's a little bit of that with the Nashville hot chicken.
Okay. I understand that a little bit more now. I went to one of them, one of the cheesesteak places. The one that's close to the ECW arena, I want to say that's Geno's. They were pretty good. I think they're the Cheese Whiz ones.
I can't recall. I know I've had both of them, but it's usually like my girlfriend's dad picking us up from the airport, and he just hands me a bag that has a sandwich that weighs 1.5 pounds in it, and I just demolish it because it's midnight and I haven't had any dinner.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Question number 5, and you're friends with the guy. This is the Wilkman question. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Whew. I have a bit of a controversial take on this. Okay. And I think it is whatever you make it. I mean, I think Christmas movies are actually subjective. You know, if you want to call Die Hard a Christmas movie, I'm not going to take any issue to that. I'm glad that you have a movie that you enjoyed during Christmas time. What do I consider it? Do I put it in my Christmas movie rotation? No, but I have no issue with it being called either way.
It's kind of why we're friends. That's kind of the way I feel about it. I mean, to me, it's not, and it's not in my rotation. But if I've often told people, I think Brett was one of them. I was like, if you want to watch it on Christmas, that's fine. I'm not going to stop you. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. But like, if you're telling me that I need to watch it because it is one, I go, well, no, I'm not forcing you not to watch it. Don't force me to watch it. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, people, it's one of those fun debates. Almost every year, you see both sides of it come out, and people are like, "Well, Stoney, what do you think?" And I'm like, I don't really define it as either. Like, it's whatever. Like, if you want to watch it, have at it. You're not going to get an argument out of me. And then that's usually the end of it, because they realize, like, oh, well, he's not going to debate me. He doesn't really give a shit. So moving on.
Well, what is your favorite Christmas movie?
My favorite Christmas movie is hands down National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay.
I think I've drawn a lot of my sense of humor from that movie. It's something I probably watch a dozen times every Christmas, just starting from Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, all the way up through Christmas. But I'm also a big fan. This is something that I don't think a lot of people really appreciate. I'm also a big fan of the Jim Carrey Christmas Carol movie. I actually like watching that late at night at least once every season, because it's kind of got that weird spooky vibe to it. Not a lot of people like that movie, but for whatever reason, that's one I got to watch every year.
That's interesting. I've never heard anyone mention that one. Granted, you didn't say that was your favorite, but you mentioned it, and I haven't watched that one since seeing it in theaters. And I just remember the Ghost of Christmas Present, I want to say, was kind of weird. Yeah,
it's a really creepy vibe to it. I mean, it's got like a sort of Tim Burton flair to it.
Before we get to question number 6, there's a topic that I forgot to mention, and we're the few warriors for this particular topic. Thanksgiving is overlooked and underappreciated.
I agree, man. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday.
Same.
Because you've got the same sort of like kinship with family. I mean, if you're fortunate, I know a lot of people don't have the same family situation that I do, where I actually love being around my family. I love sharing a table with them and talking to them, catching up on them. But you also have that sort of anticipation for the rest of the holiday season. Like, it's kind of the halfway mark between Halloween and Christmas. Once Christmas passes, you do have that sort of letdown. I mean, at least for me, there's a bit of that seasonal depression, the winter blues that set in, and it kind of makes me dread Christmas Day actually coming, but I don't get that with Thanksgiving.
Yeah. For me, it was number one, when I was always planning vacation for one of the places I used to work at, that was the easiest one to do, because everybody was taking they take Christmas, or so, like, people would take Christmas, people would take Memorial Day week, Labor Day week, 4th of July, like, they plan around holidays, and I'm like, I'll take the one where we work 3 days. I'll take Thanksgiving. And I remember one year I went to the zoo, and it wasn't even really bad that day, and this is like obviously before Thanksgiving. It was a breeze to get in and out of. It was half dead. I loved it. And I think too, it's just like how it's overlooked. It's like so many people love Halloween. So many people love Christmas. And then they just look at it as like, oh, whatever. And to me, like, it is that family time. Like, I don't have a lot of like personal family time, but I have like, close friends, and we do our own, holidays. And I'd actually do it with my one friend's family. And like, I've been adopted into that family. I just love it. And we actually celebrate Thanksgiving with them like the weekend before.
Oh, that's cool.
And we one of the reasons why we do it is so obviously, like any like family holiday, it's like, all right, we got to go to this house. All right, then we got to go to this house. And like it sucks to go somewhere and like you can't eat the food, you can't eat everything or whatever. Cause like you don't want to, you don't want to offend the people who made the food, because it's like, well, what, my food not good enough? It's like, no, like, I gotta eat a little bit because we got this other one, and maybe you even have 3 houses to go to. But instead, like, we take ours out of that day, put it the weekend before, whether it be a Saturday or Sunday, and, like, we just get to pick out. And my one friend's mom, she always makes lasagna. And, it's just so good. And it's so many people, like, hate it. Like, I'm gonna throw him under the bus. Fucking Lane. Every year he's got to talk shit about Thanksgiving. And I'm like, man, Thanksgiving is awesome. And I think what you say too about like the family feeling and like how like you're not like dreading it being over, and how technically too, like a lot of people, it's like Thanksgiving and then they're going to do the Black Friday shit. Like it's so awesome.
I love doing the Black Friday shit. I've done it every year since I was a kid. That's more good family time to me. And when I was a kid was sort of like the heyday of Black Friday, and it would just be utter madness. But these last several years, man, with the advent of companies like Amazon, just people ordering online in general, it's taken some of the crowds away. And my family, we're able to get together that Black Friday, knock out all of our shopping with less crowds, not have to worry about doing any more Christmas shopping. And then we always go have a big lunch together somewhere. And it's more bonding time, man. I know I probably sound, like this is some like hippy dippy bullshit, but it's just my favorite time of year. I enjoy that sort of downtime. It's relaxing.
And then one of the things we get up here, like we have our own version of Sheetz and Wawa. I mean, granted, we have Sheetz in here, no Wawa, but there's and I always preach this, it's a gas station called Get Go, and they do, and I think I heard Wawa does this too, is they do a sandwich called the Pilgrim, and it's like a turkey sandwich with, I'm trying to remember this, like maybe they put mashed potatoes on it, there's cheese, the bread is made of stuffing, and you can get added onto it cranberry sauce.
Oh, it's so good. We have a little cafe down here that does a turkey stuffing and cranberry sauce sandwich every November, and it's just phenomenal. People sleep on that cranberry sauce, man. That's another thing, I'm telling you.
Oh, and then something with one other thing about turkey with the leftovers. Like, and granted, like that's a huge thing. What my girlfriend's mom does. She makes, I've never heard anybody do these with turkey leftovers. Normally, like, you're doing maybe like a turkey salad or turkey sandwich is obviously huge.
Yeah.
Turkey enchiladas.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, like there was actually one year, the family get together was so big, there was no leftovers. I went out and bought a whole turkey, and I'm like, no, make them. They're so good.
We are getting those enchiladas.
All right, let's get your question number 6 in, because, in honor of Booker T, there's 6 questions. Who is your favorite? You have to pick one Southern Underground Pro wrestler, and why?
Ooh, I feel like I have to say someone other than Brett, because we do have that working relationship. But honestly, man, it really is Brett Ison. I mean, the matches that this guy's had, especially since becoming Bone Storm champion, have just been phenomenal. And even in 2018, his rivalry with the Carnies was just,
oh God, yes,
something special. And I think the national indie wrestling scene is definitely sleeping on this guy. I don't know if you watched Lights Out, the GCW show that was in the Basement East, but the reaction that he got when he walked out and crashed the Matthew Justice Mance Warner match was like Austin in the Attitude Era, man. It gives me chills just thinking about it. And that guy is just top of his game right now. And I can't think of anybody that I enjoy watching in the ring more than him.
That feud with the Carnies. I joked, I remember, on Twitter with him about that whole thing, saying that like he kills Carnies worse than meth.
That's a good one.
It was somewhere along those lines, but I tweeted in the middle of the night, and he was just like, he might have been like on a drive or something, coming back from a show, and he was just like, what? And I was like, explaining it to him. And he's like, oh, that was my bad. Like, it took like a couple tweets to explain it. But he was just like, oh, he's like, I'm been a long night or whatever. And I'm like, I'd say it's cool. But yeah, fucking like, I haven't got a chance to watch that. There's just so much wrestling to watch. But I think I did see the clip. And, you know, the basement, he did go nuts. And I'm hoping with so many like really high profile spots that, you know, Brett could be a guy that breaks out. I hope, with last I knew, I think he had might have had some like transportation issues of why he couldn't be booked other places. But I really hope that changes, because the dude deserves it. The dude is awesome. And he was one of those dudes that when I first seen him made an impression because he naturally looks scary.
He just has that aura about him. Like, he just looks like, you know, he could snap his fingers and you would be broken in half. Yeah. Like, there's few people. There are a lot of tough guys in wrestling, but there aren't many Brett Isons that just project that sort of meanness, that sort of tenacity, the aggression. Like, he just, you know, there's everything about him that just screams badass.
And then we're coming up on like a 1-year title reign with him.
Yeah, close to it. If I'm not mistaken, November 4th, 2018 is when he defeated Marco Stunt for the Bone Storm Championship.
Which I even told him, I remember that it was such a good match.
Yeah.
It sucked because at that time there obviously wasn't, you know, the IWTV, or at that time Powerbomb, of the live stream. And I knew the ending of the match, like, obviously because of social media, and it took like about a week or so to get on to streaming service. But they told a story that even I was like, oh shit, like, this is going to be, oh no. And it showed like that Marco was stronger and it wasn't going to be this complete squash.
Yeah.
But it was,
that's what a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah.
When he came out.
And it was Brett. I mean, granted, like I said, Marco was stronger, but stronger than what we thought he was going to be. Obviously, Brett won. And I mean, that led into a feud that's hopefully not over against O'Shea.
O'Shea, in my opinion, is still entitled to a one-on-one rematch for the Bone Storm Championship. Brett Ison retained the title back in March, but through nefarious means, I know I can feel like his teeth clenching as I'm saying that. Like, I'm just expecting a knock on my door to be punched in the face at any moment. But O'Shea did not get the fair shake in that match. I think he's owed a rematch. The Sup Brain Trust didn't give it to him in early August. They included the Workhorsemen, made it a fatal four-way. Fantastic contest, but I think you still have the question of who the better man is between Brett Ison and O'Shea Edwards.
Does O'Shea Edwards take the title off of Brett? Will he be the guy that does it?
I think if Brett survives AC Mack coming up in October at Your Next, which let's be honest, AC Mack is a guy that will do anything to win a wrestling match, and if the ref blinks, AC Mack's going to kick somebody's dick, and you never know what's going to happen. But if Brett can get through the Bone Storm Championship match against AC Mack, then, I think you look around the landscape of SUP, and I don't think there's a guy better suited to end this historic reign than the big bad kaiju, O'Shea Edwards.
And of course, Your Next is going to be sponsored by Wrestling Cheers and SoBros Network.
We'll be there. That we will.
Well, you will. I won't.
Touche. Fair distinction. I do want to ask you, Justin, did you catch Brett's match with Alley Cat earlier this year?
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, that was such a good match. And it seemed like we got to see one side of Brett that we don't see often, and that's compassion. Compassion
and just the respect that he showed her after the match was just something I think it took me by surprise. But something I thought was a really special match. I mean, you look at sort of the history of these big Bone Storm Championship matches, and I think this is the first one that, you had two homegrown SUP talents that were duking it out for that championship, and just the resiliency that Alley Cat showed and the compassion, as you said, from Brett was just something incredibly special. I think I'd probably consider that my sup match of the year so far.
For me, off the top of my head, the first one that I think of, mainly because I was there, Brett versus Nick Gage. That match was so good.
We're talking about Brett Ison. Just this string of opponents he's had it's just phenomenal, man. I don't know too many people that are having the year that he's having.
And like I've said, we agree on, like, hopefully that translates to, bookings elsewhere. Hopefully, Brett Ison becomes the next, like, Kurt Stallion, and starts getting booked more and more places, and he gets the spread, and he gets to get some sort of, like, big opportunity like that.
Fingers crossed, because that guy deserves it.
All right, man. Any final thoughts or last minute plugs before we go?
Man, I appreciate you having me on. I've been a long-time listener of Wrestling Cheers, and I'm excited you gave me the opportunity to do this. If any of your listeners are interested in checking us out, we are at SoBros Network on every major social media platform, and you can check out our work at SoBrosNetwork.com. Thanks for having me, Justin.
And there's also wrestling at SoBros.
Yeah, we have a lot of, all of our writers have their own Twitter accounts. We have the SoBros Wrestling account. We have the SoBros Movies account. We're out there, man. We're not hard to find.
And, of course, you can find myself at Heavyset330 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, much like you can find this show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook.com/WrestlingCheers, Twitter.com/WrestlingCheers, and Instagram.com/WrestlingCheers. Email, if you so choose to desire, WrestlingCheers@gmail.com. And we have the merch store over at whatamaneuver.net. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to this fine podcast, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or Podbean, WrestlingCheers.podbean.com. Check out our friends on the Trending Topics Network, such as All Beer Inside, Eurovision Showcase, Old School at the Movies, and Wrestling with Altitude. And check out our other podcast friends, such as Let the Hate Flow Through You, Pod Van Dam, Super Fantastic Podcast, Road Home from Wrestling, Haunted Home Video, The IndieCast, Center Stage, SoBros Network, UXWA Today, Big Gold Bell Podcast, the Co-Host Wrestling Show, Spotlight Series, I Got Your 5-Star, and Not Ready for Primetime Wrestling. Check out our other non-podcasting friends, such as Thrift Store Jobber, The Savage Stash, PowerSlam.tv, use Wrestling Cheers all one word and get your first month free, Ringside Shots Photography, Sickening Pictures, Stay Tough, Smokin' Jay's Barbecue, Wrestle Void, Midwest Territory, Southern Underground Pro, and the official graphic designer of Wrestling Cheers, Moy Boy Designs. That will do it for us here on Wrestling Cheers, where everybody knows your name, and we all say, maybe not Stoney, but go Browns. Later.
Yeah, tighten up.
Making your way in the world today takes everything you got. Taking a break from all your worries sure would help a lot. Would you like to get away? Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name, and they're always glad you came.
What you can say, rules are all the same. You're where everybody knows your